She gave up food for books. The millionaire's insane decision will haunt you forever. In the heart of a bustling city, where the bright lights illuminated the shadows of secrets, one millionaire was about to make a choice that would send shockwaves through the community. A man named Leonard Grayson stood tall, known for his empire built on riches, but behind those polished shoes lay a hunger so deep it had nothing to do with food. He was a man of ideals, a collector of words, convinced that knowledge was worth more than any gourmet feast. But how far would he go to obtain it? The public was about to discover just how far. Rumor whispered through coffee shops and book clubs. Leonard had surrendered the very essence of life for paper and ink. He sold his last meal and, with it, his place at the dinner table, pouring his fortune into a library of dreams. His mansion, once echoing with laughter, now stood quiet, filled only with the rustle of his countless tomes. Each book formed a fortress, one he'd willingly trapped himself in. The walls, lined with leather-bound classics and fragile pages, absorbed secrets waiting to be unleashed, but it came at a cost. Then, the day arrived when Leonard's friends gathered for the first time in months. They entered his grand home only to be greeted with a chilling silence. There were no meticulous table settings or extravagant dishes, just the smell of dust and forgotten meals. Nervous laughter turned to murmurings as they hesitated, scanning the room. Was this even the same Leonard? Where was the man they'd called a friend? The tension clung to the air like fog, thick and heavy, as they wondered had his obsession led him to a place of no return. As they ventured deeper, they noticed Leonard perched on a high, grand chair, surrounded by stacks of books like a king amidst his hoard. His eyes were wide, shining with an unusual fervor. The glint of madness? Perhaps. But even more unsettling was the faint glow emanating from an antique book resting in his lap. It pulsated like a heartbeat, a strange and eerie light filling the space, leaving those present frozen, entranced. What had Leonard uncovered? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let us connect. As the group whispered among themselves, dread knotted their stomachs. What could Leonard possibly be reading? The faint scent of leather mixed with an undercurrent of something else, something darker. A mistake? Or a revelation? The tension pulsed through the air as Leonard opened the book, words shimmering in the dim light. Their sounds floated like an incantation, reverberating in the minds of those listening, pulling them in, tempting them to understand what was hidden within. Silence fell, hearts raced, and they leaned closer, helplessly drawn to the very moment that could change everything. But would it? The question lingered like an unspoken promise. What would they discover if they dared to take the plunge into Leonard's world? As the pages turned, the light grew brighter, and it seemed to whisper to them, begging to be understood. What awaited them in those pages? What had Leonard awakened? The shadows danced, and as the anticipation soared, so did the mystery that would forever haunt them. The words spilled from the pages like an ancient spell, wrapping around the room, binding everyone present in a grip of enchantment and terror. Each syllable seemed to ignite the air, sending sparks flickering through their hearts. Leonard, lost in a realm beyond their reach, muttered incantations as they crept closer, curiosity outweighing their dread. Leonard, what is happening? Sarah, one of his oldest friends, finally broke the spell of silence. Her voice trembled, fear lacing her tone as she glanced nervously at the antique book. Didn't he look up? He was too involved, too consumed by whatever he'd unearthed. The glow from the book intensified, pulsating in time with Leonard's breath, making the air thrum with tension. The friends felt a wave of unease crash over them, a premonition, perhaps, of doom. What is this? Said Michael, fear cracking his voice as he stepped back, unwilling to abandon the thread of their long-time friendship but equally afraid of what lay ahead. Sweat appeared on his brow, glistening under the dim light. As if issued a command from the growing shadows, Leonard finally lifted his gaze, his eyes burning with something unholy. "I found it. The Book of Truths," he rasped, voice hoarse with unspent energy. "It knows. It knows everything." A chill gripped the room. How could a mere collection of pages possess such power? A heartbeat echoed in their ears, but it wasn't their own. It came from the book, its rhythm getting faster, almost desperate. "Leonard. You have to stop," Sarah pleaded, panic rising. She took a half-step toward him, but the others pulled her back, unwilling to draw closer to the sinister light radiating from Leonard's lap. But he didn't hear them, lost in a trance, a smile twisting his lips in a wild fashion. "You don't understand. It can unlock the secrets of the universe, of our lives. Imagine the knowledge, imagine the power." His laughter echoed off the walls, echoing like a chilling wind. His friends exchanged wary glances. This wasn't the man they knew. Doubt and fear spiraled until someone spoke up. "Are you willing to sacrifice everything, Leonard? Your humanity? Us?" The tension in the air grew thicker. A palpable fear suffused the room as Leonard's laughter died down abruptly. For a moment, the flickering light dimmed, and the space descended into an uneasy stillness. Then, with a swift motion, Leonard tossed the book onto the table, and it landed with a thud that resonated like a gunshot. The glow flickered back to life, more menacing now, and the pages turned violently as though an unseen force was at work. One of the friends, against his better judgment, stepped closer, eyes wide. What are the truths?" "Truths that can reshape reality," Leonard whispered, eyes glowing with fervor. "We have the chance to rewrite our destinies." The air thickened with urgency and dread. The group felt the gravity of their choices pressing down on them, and yet, that same curiosity gnawed at them, drawing them into the folds of a dark allure. Suddenly, the room shuddered, a shock-wave of energy sweeping through them as shadows danced menacingly. The floor trembled, books began to fall from the shelves, crashing to the ground. "Get away from that book!" Sarah screamed, disoriented, trying to pull everyone from the chaos, but it was too late. The shimmering words began to rise like whispers into the air, seeking a vessel. A wave of darkness washed over them, and they felt themselves being pulled toward the swirling tempest. What truths would they uncover? Would they be torn apart or come together in the face of unimaginable power? In that moment, as the shadows loomed closer, an ominous question echoed in their minds: were they ready to face the consequences of their curiosity? With the walls themselves seeming to close in, they stood on the precipice of a revelation that could change everything forever. What awaited them in the depths of Leonard's obsession? Would they dive into madness, or would the truths pull them into a battle for their very souls? The air crackled with a fierce energy, the shadows swirling with a life of their own. The friends felt panic rise within them like a tidal wave, consuming every rational thought. Michael staggered back, his heart hammering in his chest, while Sarah began to tremble uncontrollably, her mind racing through images of the unknown horrors that might emerge from the chaos surrounding them. "Leonard! Please!" she cried, her voice breaking through his reverie. "You have to close the book. You don't know what it may unleash." But Leonard stood unyielding, a puppet to the book's call, his face marred by a wild smile that only deepened the horror. The pages flapped open and shut, like a monstrous mouth gasping for breath, revealing indecipherable symbols that glowed with a sinister light. Shadows twisted and elongated, stretching across the walls until they seemed to coil around Leonard, binding him to the books. Suddenly, a low rumble echoed from the depths of the tome, sending vibrations through the floor. Michael gasped, clutching his head as a piercing pain radiated across his temples. "This is wrong. We shouldn't be here." He raised his hands in a futile attempt to shield himself from the encroaching darkness. "Not just wrong," Leonard hissed, his voice now dripping with fervor, "it's our destiny. Don't you see? The power of this book could make us more than human. We could do anything. But at what cost?" Sarah shot back, panic tightening her grip. You'll lose yourself. We'll lose you. I'm already lost. Leonard spat, his eyes flickering wildly between his friends and the pages. You never understood. I always wanted more than this mundane existence. With a sudden jerk, Leonard clenched the book, and the temperature in the room plummeted. The dim light wavered like a dying star, and deep within the shadows, a whisper echoed, a voice like wind through a graveyard. None could discern what it said, yet its haunting melody echoed in their minds, settling like a curse, and then it struck, the shadows uncoiling like serpents, darting toward Michael, Sarah, and their friend. An unseen force threw them back against the walls, their bodies slamming into the hard surface with a sickening thud. They gasped for air, but in that moment, something shifted. Instead of the fear that had been paralyzing them, a burning curiosity ignited. They wanted to know what the book offered, what unlocked secrets lay in those dark pages. They glanced at each other, a silent understanding dawning. If they didn't confront this entity together, they would be consumed individually. Leonard! Michael shouted, summoning every ounce of his strength. You are our only hope. We need you to fight this. The shadows pulsed with anger as Leonard seized hold of the book tighter, trapped in a tug-of-war between the dark force and the remnants of his humanity. His expression morphed, twists of pain and hunger mixed together. The flickering light flickered more intensely as though responding to the emotional turmoil within him. Help me! He cried, but the plea was muffled by his terrifying grin. The friends watched in horror as the darkness began to seep into Leonard, wrapping around him like a shroud. A chilling realization swept through them: if they didn't act soon, it wouldn't just be Leonard lost, it would be them too. In that desperate moment, Sarah knew they were at a crossroads. Would they run, or would they battle the darkness that threatened to consume them all? With courage swelling within her, she pushed off the wall, adrenaline coursing through her veins. It's now or never. We have to get the book away from him. Together, they surged forward, adrenaline fueled, with the weight of their choice crashing down like a tidal wave. The shadows writhed, a cacophony of whispers demanding silence, chaos swirling around their feet. Would they manage to free Leonard from the book's sinister grip? Or would they find themselves drawn into the darkness alongside him? Time was running out, and their lives depended on the decision they were about to make. Were they truly ready to confront the truth, whatever it may hold? As Sarah lunged toward Leonard, the shadows hissed like angry vipers, snapping at their heels. Michael could see the desperation in her eyes, reflecting his own terror. Don't let him go! He yelled, straining against the force pinning him. Each inch felt like it took more strength than he had. Leonard was still grinning, but it wasn't his smile anymore. It was twisted, malevolent, a perfect mask of the darkness that was invading him. You don't understand what you're fighting against. He shouted. This is power. I can feel it. You could too. They're lying to you, Leonard. Sarah screamed, making her way closer as the darkness swirled violently. It felt as if the room itself was breathing, a suffocating monster eager to devour them whole. She had to get to him. This isn't power. It's poison. The book pulsed, sending a ripple of energy through the air. Shadows twisted like a dance partner, pulling Leonard deeper into their embrace. He staggered, his balance faltering as the gripped pages began to warp. Michael could see the flicker of humanity fading from his friend's eyes. With a burst of adrenaline, Michael broke free from the wall's embrace, rushing to Sarah's side. Every nerve screamed at him to turn back, to flee, but he couldn't abandon Leonard. We're not losing you, man. Fight it. He urged, reaching for the book. Get back. Leonard roared, wild-eyed and desperate. You'll unleash things beyond your understanding. Yet with each sandpapery whisper of the dark surrounding them, a bittersweet courage filled Michael. Maybe we were never meant to understand. He shouted, grounding the conviction in his voice. But we owe it to you to try. He and Sarah surged together, hands outstretched. As they drew nearer, the shadows hesitated, the darkness flickering, anxious at the sudden confrontation. It shifted, swirling angrily, almost trying to entrap them too. The whispers deepened, a cacophony of voices pleading for silence, begging them to step back. It sent shivers through Michael, but he pressed on, adrenaline dictating his every move. The moment felt suspended in time, each heartbeat seemed to echo louder than the last. "Leonard! We love you! Come back to us!" Sarah cried, her voice cracking as tears streamed down her cheeks. "Don't take this. You're not lost, you just need to fight. Fight!" Michael roared, a raw, primal scream that filled the room. In that instant, the shadows shrieked, drawing back instinctively. Leonard teetered, caught between realms, the darkness clawing at his skin. Sarah dove in, managing to grasp the edge of the book, a rush of warmth washing over her even as icy tendrils worked to pull her back. She pulled, her body shaking under the weight of the struggle. "We can do this together. Just hold on." Their bodies slammed against each other, an unbreakable wall against the approaching chaos. For a moment, the shadows faltered, unsure how to react to their unified resolve, but it wasn't enough. The power radiating from the book surged violently, pushing back against their combined efforts. A deafening roar enveloped them as the shadows, furious and relentless, returned with amplified fury, unleashing a haunting darkness that filled the room entirely. "Let go!" Leonard screamed, his voice cracking, a mixture of his own fear and newfound clarity shimmering through the thrumming energy. He fought back, the darkness pulling at him like an anchor. "Please just let me go." "No!" Sarah cried. "We want to let them take you." But then something shifted. A whisper slithered through the air, breaking through the cacophony. It was familiar, close. "Leonard, help me," the voice begged, soft and pleading, almost childlike. He faltered, and for an instant, they all paused as recognition settled in their chests. The shadows fell still. "Is that?" Michael breathed, eyes wide. "Who is it?" Sarah asked, equally tense, her grip tightening on the book. Through the shadowy haze, as they held on to Leonard, a flicker of light shone briefly within the darkness, revealing a figure familiar, yet distorted. "Is that someone we know?" Leonard's voice trembled, caught between the horrific recognition and the determination to break free. With urgency building, Michael and Sarah exchanged terrified glances, realizing that their fight was only beginning. What lay behind the darkness? Who was trapped within its depths? As they fought to pull Leonard from the book's grasp, shadows shifted ominously. The fate of not just Leonard, but their entire friendship, hung in the balance. Could they confront what lurked in the depths of the shadows, or was it all destined to consume them? They had to face whatever truth awaited them, but one question gnawed at Michael like a relentless hunger: would they ever emerge from this horror alive? The shadows writhed again, snapping at the edges of Leonard's figure, forming grotesque tendrils that seemed to siphon away the warmth of his humanity. "Help me!" he cried, a word caught between a plea and a death sentence. Beneath his skin, Michael could sense the desperate struggle where light battled darkness. "Don't look away. Focus!" Sarah shouted, her voice breaking through the dark cacophony. Her eyes, glistening with resolve, fixed on Leonard, and Michael mirrored that determination. They were holding on to each other, a bolster against the menace threatening to shatter them all apart. Suddenly, the whisper in the shadows intensified, echoing like shattered glass. "Leonard, you have to join us." It was the voice again, haunting, but somehow sweet enough to lure anyone unsteady. "We're stronger together." "Who is that?" Michael's voice shook as he glanced around, panic threading through his chest. "What do they want?" The shimmering light flickered momentarily, revealing an almost ghostly visage. It was a face they knew too well, a face from memories tucked away in the corners of their lives. It was Rachel, Leonard's younger sister, who had vanished years ago. The shock surged through Michael, a cold wave crashing inside him. Was it true? Had their search for Leonard led them to this? "Rachel, is that you?" Leonard's voice cracked. The conflict raging inside him was palpable, as if each syllable extracted a piece of his will. "Help me, Leonard. They've been waiting for you," the ghostly image beckoned, her voice low and silky, wrapping around him like a serpentine lullaby. "We can be a family again, don't listen to that," Sarah yelled, desperation sparking anew in her voice. "It's a trap." But the darkness surged, pulling at Leonard with renewed vigor, feeding off the doubt that flickered across his face. He hesitated, eyes darting between Sarah's fierce love and Rachel's ethereal plea. "Leonard, think. Do you really want to join her? To become a prisoner like her?" Michael's heart raced, each word a desperate anchor to reality. He felt like he was standing on the brink of a cliff, wind howling around him. "Please, I can't." Leonard's voice wavered, torn between loyalty to his friends and the familial attachment that seemed forged in the shadowy world. The shadows rallied, wrapping tighter around him, demanding surrender. With a surge of energy, Sarah pulled the book closer, feeling its pulse beneath her grip. "This isn't who you are. Fight. You're more than this darkness." The caustic howls of the shadows lacked answers, only fury in reply, their grip tightening as they demanded sacrifice. Each breath became a battle, heavy in the air. "Stop!" Leonard screamed, as though the sound could shatter the darkness. For a brief moment, he steadied himself, pulling the book to his chest. He was trembling, caught in a riptide of emotions. "Who are you?" The shadowy figure of Rachel laughed softly, the sound like a cold wind tickling the back of his neck. "I'm everything you've wanted. We can have a life together, Leonard." Suddenly, a light burst from the book, bright enough to temporarily blind them. The shadows screeched, recoiling. "No!" Michael shouted, instinctively shielding his eyes. "Leonard, focus on us. Look at us." When he opened his eyes, they were wide, reflecting confusion and desperation. Just as the intensity reached its peak, the light dimmed, revealing the echoes of Leonard's sister dissipating into a cloud of darkness, leaving behind an empty silence like the echo of a distant memory. "Leonard!" Sarah screamed as the darkness began to coalesce again. But Leonard, seemingly reborn in that fleeting moment of clarity, gripped the book tighter. "I won't lose myself," he shouted, and Michael felt a semblance of hope flickering amidst the chaos, yet the shadows responded with a wrath that shook the very foundations of their reality, swirling like a storm, ramping up the tension, begging for dominance. Michael's heart hammered as he glanced toward Sarah, both their fates tethered to Leonard's choice. "Together," he yelled. "We face this as one. No matter what." The shadows howled in fury, blending into a menacing tide. As the three of them braced for what was to come, a sudden thought jolted through Michael's mind. What were they really about to unleash? With that realization hanging thick in the air, they hesitated, unsure if they were stepping closer to salvation or deeper into damnation. Would Leonard withstand the darkness? Would their bond prove strong enough? The moment hung heavily, waiting for an answer that seemed just out of reach. Leonard's grip tightened around the book as if it were a lifeline, pulling him back from the maw of despair. The rhythmic beating of his heart pounded against the weight of the shadows swirling around him. It felt like being caught in a tsunami, both a surge of power and a sense of impending doom. "Stay close," Sarah shouted, reaching out as if to physically pull him back from the brink. But the shadows surged, a dark riptide tugging at their feet, threatening to drag them all beneath its soulless depths. "Leonard!" Michael's voice broke, thick with fear. "Remember who you are. Fight!" But Leonard's eyes flickered, wrestling between shadow and light. The echo of Rachel whispered sweetly in his ear, a caress that sent shivers down his spine. "Join me, Leonard. This is where you belong." The shadows thickened, wrapping around him like chains, and Leonard felt his resolve cracking. Memories of laughter, family dinners, and the innocence of youth flashed before his eyes. They were trying to rip him away to somewhere he couldn't follow. "No, no!" he roared, as ferocity ignited within him. The face of his sister was a beacon of warmth, but the shadows were an abyss he didn't want to plunge into. I won't lose to this. As the shadows pressed in closer, their chittering cacophony clawed at his sanity. He could feel the whispers spiraling, wrapping tighter like a noose. Each syllable slipped into the cracks of his mind. Join us, surrender, give in. Suddenly, a flash of light erupted from the book as if it sensed Leonard's turmoil. This is your choice. The voice exploded in his mind, both soothing and terrifying. The light expanded, illuminating the surrounding area, revealing the distorted faces of the shadows, twisted in rage and desperation. Fight! Sarah's voice anchored him, grounding him in a reality brimming with life. You have us. We're not letting go. He turned to them, seeing her fierce determination and Michael's burning hope. They were more than friends, they were his lifeline. Lifting the book higher, he felt its heat radiate against his palm. It pulsed, a heart beating in sync with the chaos surrounding them. Leonard took a deep breath. He could feel the weight of their trust bearing down on his shoulders. I won't let you win. His scream echoed, fierce like a thunderclap, breaking through the shadows' slithering whispers. He would fight back, channeling every ounce of love, every flicker of light inside him. He turned the pages of the book, words flowing through him like a tidal wave of energy. The shadows screamed, recoiling as the light burst forth, transforming into brilliant beams that sliced through the darkness. Michael. Sarah. Now. Leonard shouted, adrenaline driving him. They formed a circle around him, hands clasped, voices rising in unison, drowning out the ghastly howls of the shadows. Power surged around them as they chanted words Leonard couldn't quite fathom, the book's binding unfurling ancient secrets. The light wrapped around their limbs, vibrant and alive, pushing back against the encroaching darkness, but then Leonard saw a flicker, a glimmer amid the thrashing shadows. Rachel's face momentarily returned, twisting between rage and sadness. You will regret this, brother. She screeched, her words reverberating through the increasingly chaotic scene. With every second that ticked by, Leonard felt the weight of a choice pressing upon him. Was the darkness telling the truth? Was there something beyond what they understood? Panic surged within him, threatening to break his concentration. Leonard. Sarah's scream pierced the tumult. Focus. It's not too late. We can defeat this. But a deep-seated doubt coiled in his gut. In that swirling chaos, was he really strong enough to stand against not just the shadows, but also his own blood? As the shadows conspired to plunge him deeper into despair, Leonard hesitated again, the chilling realization dawning on him. He was not merely fighting for his own soul but for the very fabric of their connections. What if I don't want to? He whispered, a tremor in his voice, feeling the distance between them stretch painfully. The tendrils around him pulsed, hungry, sensing his wavering strength. Would he break or would he stand? Time slowed, the weight of the moment heavy in the air, and in the depths of silence, a new question emerged. What happens when family becomes the enemy, and darkness disguises itself as love? The distance between Leonard and Rachel grew hazy as the shadows thrummed with anticipation, waiting for his next move. The shadows recoiled momentarily in response to Leonard's voice, as if the volume of his doubt struck a chord deeper than the light's intrusion. A silence settled, thick and agonizing, punctuated only by the ragged breaths of Sarah and Michael. They exchanged worried glances, uncertainty flooding their expressions. Could he truly pull away from Rachel's dark temptation? Leonard. Sarah insisted, desperation edging her tone. You have to remember. She's not herself. But even as she spoke, Leonard felt the warmth fade, replaced by a cold dread that seeped into his bones. What if I'm losing her? What if she's right? Suddenly, the shadows surged again, sensing his internal struggle. They whispered louder, clawing at his mind, you'll find peace with us. You'll be whole. No more pain. Stop. Leonard shouted, striking out with an intensity that widened his circle of light. The shadows writhed, their faces contorting in unison. Each one reflected something he feared: the guilt of abandonment, the regret of choices unmade, the grief of family ties twisted by darkness. "Leonard, please!" Michael yelled, eyes wide. "Don't let her hold you captive. We're here. Fight for us." "Fight for what?" Leonard shot back, his voice breaking. He could feel the bond with Rachel stretching, fraying at the seams. What if this darkness is just a part of who I am? What if she is not the enemy? In that moment, a new surge of energy rippled from the book, boiling hot, contrasting the lethal chill of doubt. It wrapped around him, igniting memories anew, shared laughter, camping under starry skies, the smell of his mother's homemade pies. He saw smiles and warmth and a flash of his sister, not handling shadows but surrounded by laughter, free and alive. "Remember the good," Sarah shouted, pulling him back as if by sheer will. "Remember your love for her when she was whole." The shadows hissed, venomous whispers rising like a storm. "Love can't save you. Love is what led you here." They taunted, circling him again, their grip tightening around his heart. Leonard squeezed his eyes shut, fighting against the tide. He felt grounding energy in the chant of Sarah and Michael, powerful, unyielding, flowing into him. "Focus on the light." He breathed, eyes suddenly blazing open that a white-hot beam burst from the book, cutting deeper into the night. The shadows shrieked, squirming violently, trying to shield themselves from the intensity of that raw, piercing light. Yet, through it all, the image of Rachel lingered. Her face was conflicted, struggling against chains of darkness, still somehow shining through. "I won't give up on you," Leonard declared. "You're still in there, Rachel. We can fight this together. Do you really think you can save her?" The shadows gurgled, voices warping and blending into a nightmarish pitch. "Or are you simply trying to erase your own guilt?" The push and pull of love and despair created a cyclone in Leonard's chest. Gasping, he clutched the book as if it were a lifeline tearing him between two worlds, his heart racing with frantic determination. Each pulse between light and darkness urged him to choose, every heartbeat felt like an impending climax. Just then, a visage flickered Rachel's face, strikingly close amidst the chaos, caught in flickering light. "Don't be foolish, Leonard," she cried, her voice dripping with both love and danger. "You don't know what you're fighting against. Join me, we could be perfect together." The shadows tightened their grip, the coldness stinging, breathing their chilling invitation into his ear. Yet, a flicker of warmth blossomed in his chest, a last vestige of hope battling against the encroaching darkness. "Leonard! Now!" Michael shouted, his voice cutting through the tension like steel. Will he choose the chance of salvation for Rachel, or be swallowed whole by the shadows that threatened to tear them apart? The air shimmered, tension electric around them as the hard choices writhed at their feet. Time slowed, every heartbeat mirroring the impending collapse. Would Leonard fight for love, or succumb to fear? In a world of shadows and light, what price would he pay for the sake of family? The shadows pulsed violently around Leonard, wrapping tighter, squeezing the breath from his lungs like a vice. Each flicker of Rachel's face seemed to strike harder than before, a reminder of what they had lost. Every tempting promise brushed against the edges of his mind, whispering sweetly, deceitfully. Yet amidst that chaos, a spark ignited deep within him. "Focus, Leonard." Sarah's voice rang out again, her desperation palpable. He needed to channel that energy, to create a counterforce against the darkness suffocating him. He felt his heart drum against his ribcage, the rhythmic pounding echoing louder than the dissonant murmurings of the shadows. "I have to believe," he murmured, almost to himself. Leaning into the light of the book, his trembling hands gripped it tighter, and with every ounce of strength he could muster, he shouted, "I am not afraid." The shadows recoiled as if struck. They screeched, their chorus of whispers rising into a cacophony of rage. "Fool! You think words can protect you? We are eternal. We know your darkest fears." Leonard forced himself to recall each moment of joy that had once colored his life, the laughter of his sister, the warmth of a family dinner. Memories fluttered like flickering fireflies, pushing back against the suffocating darkness. The laughter became a chant, a battle hymn against the shadows, and he could feel Sarah and Michael's chants resonating with him. Their voices were the forge in which his resolve was tempered. Suddenly, thunder rumbled in the distance, as lightning streaked the sky, illuminating their desperate struggle. Enough! The shadows hissed again, forming into dark specters, projecting images filled with shame and regret, each one a dagger aimed at Leonard's heart. Rachel appeared once more, her eyes pleading, yet filled with the remnants of her shadowy ties. "Please, I'm lost. Help me." We could be whole again. He could see the flicker of her true self buried underneath layers of grey. She wasn't just a puppet dancing to the shadows' taunts. She was still in there. "I want to let you fall into this abyss," Leonard shouted, taking a step forward, pain burning in his chest. "You're worth fighting for." A roar erupted from the shadows, a wave of darkness washing over him, pulling him deeper. "You cannot defeat us. You will only discover your own despair." Suddenly, a surge of heat coursed through Leonard's body, the magic of the book igniting not just the light around him, but igniting something fierce within him. In that moment, clarity struck. "You want despair. You want my fear. I embrace my pain. It makes me who I am." The air electrified, and his hands began to glow with an ethereal light. "You think love has no power? It is my greatest weapon," he roared, the vibrations breaking through the whispering chaos, causing the shadows to waver and gasp. With a deafening roar, he unleashed the light in a blinding explosion, surrounding Sarah and Michael. The shockwave crashed against the shadows like a tidal wave. The darkness whipped and spiraled, screeching in agony as it clawed to maintain its hold. Leonard stood firm, eyes locked onto Rachel, who now looked brave as she faced her tormentors. "Take my hand," he cried, desperate and hopeful. But then, the shadows twisted violently, fracturing Leonard's beam of light. "She is ours," they screeched, lurching toward Rachel, tendrils stretching as they sought to ensnare her. "Leonard! Help!" Rachel's voice cracked, her eyes wide with fear as chaos erupted around them. The intensity of the shadows blurred their surroundings, twisting their forms into grotesque figures. He grasped the book tighter, a lifeline amid the onslaught. As he fought against the sheer terror overwhelming him, could he pierce the heart of the darkness and pull Rachel back? Would his love be enough to banish the anguish? As he locked eyes with Rachel, a crack formed in the shadowy veil, revealing a path. The question hung in the air, heavy with unspoken fear: would he risk everything to follow her back to the light, or would he lose her forever? Leonard's heart raced as he saw the tendrils of shadow reaching for Rachel. Every fiber of his being screamed for him to act, to save her from being swallowed whole by the abyss. He could feel her fear like a pulse, deep and thrumming inside him, and it ignited a fire of determination. With a visceral roar, he leapt toward the crack in the shadows, the world blurring around him. The air thickened, pressing in on him with stifling weight. "I'm coming for you," he shouted, plunging into the darkness. The moment he crossed that threshold, the shadows surged. They twisted and coiled around him like snakes, hissing insults and fears. "You think you can save her? You're too late. You're a fool if you believe love can conquer this." Each word cut deeper than knives, his strength faltering under their relentless pressure. Doubt crept into his mind, threatening to smother him, but then, in the depths of despair, the light from the book flickered brightly. It became a radiant flame against the encroaching dark. Leonard grasped at that illumination, feeling its warmth seep into his bones. "No. I want to let you take her. I will fight," he screamed, the power of his defiance exploding forth. In that moment, the shadows shrieked, recoiling from the glow. The images they projected twisted into grotesque shapes, memories he had long buried, failures he had feared to face. "Look. This is who you are," they taunted, showing him his past, raw and jagged. A younger version of himself, weak and afraid, echoed through the phantoms. Leonard clenched his teeth, refusing the call of despair. "You don't know me. I've grown stronger." He forced his mind to the memories that flooded back, yet this time, he wove them into a shield of resilience. His failures became lessons, his fears merely shadows in the background of a brighter picture. With a surge of courage, he drew the radiance closer, letting it wash over him. The shadows hissed and thrashed, dark tendrils writhing as they fought against his growing light. You cannot win. She belongs to us. They screeched, but doubt clawed their voices. They were faltering. Rachel. He called, reaching for her through the chaos. He could see her silhouette now, struggling against the darkness. You are more than this. Remember who you are. Fight. Her eyes locked onto his, a spark igniting hope deep within their shared despair. Leonard, she breathed, her voice sounding like a fragile echo, barely audible amid the tempest. With renewed resolve, Leonard surged toward her, every ounce of his being focused on connection. Take my hand. The shadows lunged again, grasping for her, but fighting to protect Rachel consumed him entirely. The book pulsed with energy, and he felt the ground beneath him tremble as if the very world was shifting. Together. He shouted, and for an instant, everything stood still. The moment stretched, charged with the intensity of their bond. Despite the constraints of darkness, Leonard felt hope, a tangible thing that flared brightly against the encroaching despair. Then, just as he reached for her, the shadows screamed as if in pain. You don't belong here. The tendrils lashed out, striking against their merging light. Leonard's heart sank, a scream stuck deep in his throat as he felt the world begin to unravel around him, but in that chaotic swirl, he saw the crack deepen. The path back to the light was there. If he could just hold on a second longer, harness this power. But deep within the shadows, something dark stirred, awakening a deeper fear, a chilling laughter that echoed through the void. What if love isn't enough after all? The shadows whispered, slithering like liquid night, wrapping around his legs. And with that, an icy dread filled his chest, threatening to pull him under. Would he succeed, or was the abyss echoing with truth? As the last flicker of hope ignited within Leonard, he realized the terrifying reality. One final choice loomed before him. Would he sacrifice everything for Rachel, or would this be the moment he finally lost her forever? In the heart of darkness, the tension reached a boiling point. Leonard, teetering on the edge, felt the shadows tighten their grip, cold tendrils wrapping around his throat, choking away his resolve. The whirling vortex of despair screamed in his mind, but somewhere deep inside, a flicker of light flared urgently against the encroaching black. Rachel, I won't abandon you. He shouted, each word a lifeline as he fought to breach the barrier between them. Their eyes locked, and in that instant, he glimpsed the flickering spark of hope she embodied. Like a candle, it pulsed against the shadow's hunger, and Leonard felt a new determination roaring to life within him. Echoes of laughter flooded his mind, the warmth of family dinners, cheerful banter, the feeling of belonging. This was who he was, this was what love truly meant. He was not merely a victim of circumstance. He was more than the shadows he battled. Remember. Leonard yelled, leaning into the energy of the book like a fuel. Remember the joy. Remember the light. His voice cracked, but there was no room for doubt. He had to pull Rachel from the brink, and he could feel that she was beginning to respond. Her essence shimmered like a fractured mirror, reflecting the truth, yearning to be set free. Fight with me. His heart swelled with passion, a fierce, raging storm against the darkness that clawed at them. You are not just her, you are my sister. My blood. Who I love. Then he hurled himself into the abyss, surging forward, driven by the bond they shared. The shadows writhed in panic, shrieking as the light surged around him like a protective aura, drawing strength from his unwavering commitment. Love protects. It heals. He roared, and as if responding to his conviction, a radiant pulse burst from the book, igniting their surroundings with brilliance. The shadows shrieked and twisted as it enveloped them, squishing the dark tendrils hesitating in their advance. Together, we can break this cycle. Leonard. Rachel's voice rose through the smothering chaos, cutting through the despair. I don't want to lose you. You won tea, he promised, stretching his hand, feeling the warmth of her spirit slide into his grasp, soft as a whisper, strong as a promise. With newfound strength, Leonard pulled her against him, and the shadows howled in protest. We are more than this darkness. We are family. He channeled every ounce of love, every cherished memory, every promise they had ever made, and in doing so, the shadows exploded away, screeching in a cacophony of rage as the space around them transformed into a luminous haven. Suddenly, the weight lifted, shadows swirling away like thick mist dispersing under the morning sun. With one final shout, Leonard threw the book away from them, and as it landed, it disintegrated into sparks, each one glowing like stars in the night sky. They stood there, trembling, surrounded by light. Leonard felt the tendrils of despair shred away, leaving raw emotions flickering within. We did it, he breathed, overjoyed, relief washing over him like the tide. Rachel, free of the shadows, shimmered at his side while color returned to her cheeks. Leonard, her voice crackled, but he could see it, the bond renewed, brighter than ever. With trembling hands, they embraced, tears spilling down their cheeks. I thought I lost you, he murmured, the door to their shared past aching with both regret and warmth. Michael and Sarah joined them, the warmth of their friendship washing over them in waves. We believed in you, Sarah cried, the joy slicing through the remaining echoes of fear. Together, Michael said, squeezing their shoulders, exhausted yet triumphant. The shadows, now mere wisps fading into the void, carried the remnants of doubt away. They had fought the abyss together, and what echoed from that night was not just victory but the freedom to love and be loved in return. What had once threatened to tear them apart had ultimately bound them closer together. As dawn broke outside, light filled the mansion, illuminating the spaces once shrouded in darkness. They stood united, ready to face whatever lay ahead. Let us turn the page, Leonard said softly, with a smile warming his heart, and they did. They learned, they grew, and together, they forged a new world from the ashes of the old. But before they stepped fully into the light, a reminder rang clear in Leonard's mind: love, above all, was the most powerful truth of all. Now, as you've taken this incredible journey with us, it's time to show your support. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss the next exclusive stories that will rock your world. Smash that like button right now to feed the algorithm and keep these amazing tales flowing. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this ending. We want to hear from you. And don't forget to instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this breathtaking conclusion for themselves. This is the moment to stand with your favorite channel. Don't wait even one more second to show your support.